if you want to start advertising tomorrow, say, and you're like, my dream is I want to be on television. I want to be Beau Royal, attorney at law, but you don't have the infrastructure to support that type of advertisement. A lot of those phone calls will go unanswered and a lot of those advertising dollars will be wasted.
Hey everyone, Beau Royal here, co-founder and CEO of Pareto Legal, where we help injury lawyers increase their profits with business strategy, digital advertising, and analytics. You're listening to the Pareto Legal podcast, where we feature world-class attorneys, entrepreneurs, and legal experts. And today I am joined by Nick Werker, Director of Marketing at Answering Legal, a law firm call answering and intake service serving thousands of legal clients across the United States. In this episode, we'll discuss why every law firm needs an answering service, what to consider when setting up your intake system, and more. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun talking to you. I think we probably, what did we meet, 12 minutes ago, and we're still talking, and then we just started?
Well, we met 12 minutes ago. You and I have actually known each other for 3-4 years now.
Way longer than that. I think that's just our actual working business relationship.
In any event, it's good to have you on, Nick. I want to kind of dive right in. First question, how can law firms benefit from using a call answering service, and what specific advantage do these services offer to the legal industry?
Off the top of my head, there are 3 main benefits, and you can have all 3. I don't judge you. Whatever you value most in life is totally up to you. But the number one thing is, if you like money and you don't want to waste money, you need an answering service, especially as like I'll say a smaller firm trying to compete with larger firms in the areas of like, I don't know, litigation or like civil matters. And the reason is that it's very easy to get outspent advertising wise. So what we do is we provide infrastructure first and foremost. So if you want to start advertising tomorrow, say, and you're like, my dream is I want to be on television. I want to be Beau Royal, attorney at law. I want the suit with the TV ad. You know what I'm saying? But you don't have the infrastructure to support that type of advertisement. A lot of those phone calls will go unanswered and a lot of those advertising dollars will be wasted. So the first thing really is that no matter what you're doing, you can know that every caller to your firm, if you have an answering service that's equipped at least to handle that, again, not saying anything by that, you can make a lot more money and you can stop wasting money. It's like seriously affordable. So people will say like, oh, I could hire somebody to answer my own phones. Sure. But that's like 40 hours a week, maybe 50. And clients don't really call you during your business hours because they're also working. So like to me, if I get a DUI at 9 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night, I'm not going to call my lawyer at like 1 p.m. in the afternoon after you've had your nice lunch and you are ready for me. So that's number one. This is going to be long-winded. I'm sorry. Number 2 is it's a huge time saver, but it's also like a peace of mind thing. So like I use the service for myself, right? I know that if somebody calls me, I don't have to worry that I'm missing out on new business. I don't have to stop what I'm doing. Like lawyers are busy people and they have actual physical work to be done. If you have to appear in court, you literally cannot answer your phone or the judge will throw you out. Or the judge will hate you, which is probably even worse. So the peace of mind that customers get, that they know their clients are being taken care of, existing clients, right? Like what's the number one reason that attorneys get bad reviews is, oh, he or she never communicated with me. They never answered the phone. They never emailed me back. They never did that. They never called me back. Maybe you're not getting the messages. I don't know, right? The third thing is like, I'm going to a trade show in like a month and I'm setting up an obstacle course. This is going to answer the question eventually. So the obstacle course is, I'm going to time you. You're a lawyer. You're going to come do the Answering Legal obstacle course. You're going to have to transcribe a document. So I'm going to put a document on like a thing and you got to type it out. And while you're typing it out, you got to answer a phone and do a legal intake with a client, right? And then you got to go on your commute to court and you gotta be at court on time. And then the final thing is you got to make it to your kid's t-ball game. So there's like a little cardboard cutout of a kid playing t-ball. If you can do all three of, or all four, or however many that was, if you could do all of those things, we'll time it. There's going to be a leaderboard. But the point is that, like, if you want to live a life, a healthy life, play golf, take taekwondo lessons, go to mahjong on Tuesdays, then you need some help. You need some infrastructure, and an answering service for lawyers. I like to put that disclaimer there. Will help you do any one of those three things or all three of those things. If you don't care that much about money and you care about time, then that's great. I'm one of those people. I would like to spend my free time doing things I enjoy.
I think all three of those are super important. And I'll be candid that, one of the criteria that we look at when we're assessing whether or not to work with a law firm on their marketing is, do they have that infrastructure in place? Because the reality is, look, if we do our job with the marketing, but you don't have that receptionist in place, you don't have that intake team in place, we're going to generate leads all day and they're going to just fall to the wayside. I don't care how good of an intake person you think you are. If you're the managing partner, you can't handle 20, 30, 50, 100 calls a week and expect to handle that well and then also handle the case as well, right? So I think it's so important. The other thing too is, I think a lot of firms, will automatically assume like, okay, I have an intake staff in place and I don't need an answering service for that reason. And I would argue they do, because what happens if you have two intake people, they're on the lines and the third person calls or the fourth person calls? Like, you need to have a safety net in order to ensure that those leads, that third, fourth, fifth caller are being handled just as well as the first two callers, right? So anyway, you're preaching to the choir. I think it's pretty clear what the benefits are of an answering service. So we talked about benefits. Can you talk about some of the challenges that law firms face when it comes to managing incoming calls, and how can a call answering service address those challenges effectively? I know I kind of already said a few of them.
Well, I'm going to back up because, so I come from a sales background. I started here in sales. I'll put it that way. But I started at the bottom. So I'm fortunate that I learned a lot about how we do business, how we take care of the customer, and what my customers' needs were before I took the next step in my career. So I'll say this: a majority of the people that I used to speak to, I would speak to hundreds of lawyers a day, trying to get them, use my service, buy it, try it for free. The worst firms don't have a plan for their phone at all. So what I want people to do first is, you have to know where your phone is going to ring physically 24 hours out of the day. So even if you say, if it's a fine answer. If you want to send them to voicemail and you believe that your clients are going to leave a voicemail, that's fine. That's an ideological difference between you and me. We're fine there. But I tell everybody, have a plan. If you have 2 employees and you want them to be on call at night for, criminal matters or we're talking about real stuff here, family disputes where they want to call their lawyer. I want to get my husband out of here now. Yeah, good. You should. You have to have a detailed breakdown for where that phone is going to ring. The problem with that usually is that law firms' schedules fluctuate a lot. So depending on the amount of clients you have, your schedule will look very different. If you say you practice 3 major practice areas, right? And you got a criminal division, a bankruptcy, and I don't know, you do immigration. Say that. That's actually a really good example. You got to go to court for your criminal clients, and that is usually a fluctuating schedule because you don't know when their court dates are. And immigration is a really high volume practice that you need to make sure your phones are being answered. So having an infrastructure that so I talk too fast, I'm sorry. What a company like Answering Legal will do is we will answer calls only that you miss on what we call a rollover call forwarding basis. I'm going to slow my talking down because I'm nuts. Every time that you simply can't answer the phone or you turn your phone off, that's when it would come to us. So you don't have to worry that we're screening every single call or that any service would screen any single call, every single call. However, there are, and I could send and post 1,000 studies that customers in today's era, their expectation of law firms is that they will go with the first firm that answers the call. That's something like 90% of legal customers will go with the first attorney who answers their call with a person, tells them that they're going to get back to them. My main, again, I'll use the same word, ideological problem with answering services is that a lot of their goals are to answer as many phone calls as possible because they charge, say, by the minute. So if you're a law firm looking for a service and you want it cheap and you find one of these cheap services, the problem is that the person answering the call is going to rush. They're not going to take the time to make that caller feel heard. These are really sensitive issues we're talking about. We're talking about arrests, divorce, bankruptcy, foreclosure, immigration. These are all like, I don't wish these things on anybody, but that's why we have lawyers, is to help them. You don't want that person to be rushed off the phone because they will not hire you. So there's a nice, what I'll call like optimization that you can have. I'm an economics kid, so we talk about what we do is we train our receptionists, and this is what I would recommend that you find out that your team is doing, is to take the time to listen to them, but also ask them the real questions that you need to have asked in order to call them back and really close them as a customer. I don't even know if I'm answering the question anymore.
No, you are. I think you're hitting on a lot of key points. The question was, what are the common challenges? I think you're hitting on both the challenges and the benefits simultaneously. But what are the common challenges that law firms face when it comes to managing incoming calls, and how can a call answering service address these challenges effectively?
I'll finish by saying this. The best example of somebody, the best example of a customer of mine I ever saw use our service is, he's a traffic ticket attorney. He has maybe 10 employees, and he sends every single phone call from his office to us at Answering Legal. We screen the calls. We do a preliminary intake. This way he knows with 100% certainty that every call is going answered by a person who's trained on his staff to ask the right questions, get the right information, and get that information to him with accuracy, to his CRM, with the app, all of that. He then has like 4 or 5 people whose sole job it is to do the follow-up with that client, give them like an initial consultation, tell them how it's going to go. And yes, traffic tickets are a lot easier and less complex than most legal cases. I understand that. But he built his infrastructure around knowing that his customer service was infallible. And I thought that was the coolest thing I ever. He's like, yeah, I literally have people whose job it is to do outbound and then finish the intake that you guys start so that they hire us. And his close rate was nuts.
That's awesome. The next thing I wanted to ask about was, let's say that I'm a law firm in the market for an answering service. What are the key features or the best practices? What things should you look for when you're selecting an answering service?
This is a good question because there's a lot. And there are, I don't want to say many, there are a few good answering services out there that I would never knock. I think they do a good job. I think they have great staff. But there's pluses and minuses and drawbacks and all that to every company that you would hire, even with me. My main focuses for law firms are, I would say, pickup time. So if you're going to get a free trial of a service, I would personally call my own office and make sure that they're answering the phone quickly. We like to say you should answer the phone within 3 rings. And if you're not answering the phone within 3 rings, that's a long time to be waiting. I think every ring is 5 seconds. So 15 seconds pickup time if you want to time it. But I got to tell you, I've worked in this industry for so long that when I call people, it's a really bad habit, but I don't wait to get to their voicemail. I hang up after 2. And so like a lot of my day is spent playing phone tag with people because I just hang up so often. But I guess it's a pet peeve that I've grown into where it's like, you didn't answer the phone. I would also caution people to find out where the receptionists are. I don't want to sound like xenophobic. I don't want to knock anybody's, but there's a specific benefit to having a cultural relationship with the caller. I'm blessed that we are able to hire in 4 states. I think we're in New York, Florida. Oh, I'm going to mess this up. It's one of the Carolinas. I don't know which Carolina. And then there's another state. So when we route calls, we're able to effectively match like areas. But so I did that. I think they should be domestic. Customer service is huge because when it comes to phones, a lot of the infrastructure that we're relying upon is just your phone infrastructure. So when I start answering your phone calls, like, yes, I have my own technology that routes calls once they get to me. But say, I don't know, Verizon does a network update, and for whatever reason, it knocks the call forwarding off of 20,000 iPhones in your area, and those calls stop going to me. You need to be able to reach me so that I can fix it, like, immediately. So, like 24-hour support team, and you want to be able to make changes. Like, I'm trying to think of a good example of a change that you want to make. Let's say you're going on vacation and you want to make sure that, like, I'm going on vacation, Bo's going to handle all the calls while I'm away. I need him to get all the messages for my criminal cases and my existing clients and the calendar. Don't schedule anything on my calendar for 14 days. I'll be back on February 14th. That change needs to be made on the fly because otherwise those callers are not getting answered. So, like, yeah, you can answer the phone, but you need to know that the company that is answering them is able to make these changes with you. The final thing I'll say is I want to give lawyers a lot of credit. They have profession-wide started to finally adopt technology that allows them to work faster. Lawyers are using like ChatGPT. They have their own tools that are integrated with like legal research, and CRMs are so huge for lawyers. There's great options everywhere, but it doesn't help really to get your messages from a service that don't go directly and like seamlessly into your CRM so that you can begin working, because otherwise it just creates more work. You have to do data entry. You have to make sure that, oh, this case matches up with that. That's a waste of time. That's a waste of everybody's time. So at least make sure that they're able to do some sort of integration, whether it's a third-party Zapier integration or direct integration is preferred, obviously. But those are the 4 things that I would look for.
That's awesome. So I wrote down speed, how quickly the call is being answered. Preferably it's a US-based call center, right? So that there's the cultural nuance that can be deployed during that conversation, right? Like there's just more empathy and just more relatability when you're dealing with someone that's local, right? Customer service was the 3rd, and I completely agree with the 4th. I agree with all of them, but the 4th one specifically is CRM integration, making sure that infrastructure is in place so that you're not just getting the email of the intake or the lead. That information is being automatically ported into your CRM or case management system. I think that's huge.
I think I should have said it like how you said it, and I would have saved us both a lot of time.
No, it's good, but you had to kind of give the color, you had to give the example, so on and so forth. It's perfect. So I want to talk a little bit more about technology because we just touched on it. How does technology play a role in enhancing call answering services for law firms? Let me start that over. One sec. How does technology play a role in enhancing call answering services for law firms, and what emerging trends should lawyers be aware of in this space?
I'm going to break the 4th wall here. Thank you for the softball. So we just developed a ton of like direct integrations with all the major CRM legal platforms that you could possibly want. We have the ability to send out retainer agreements, basically anything that you would want to send a client or a caller. At the end of a phone call, we can shoot it out automatically, a thank you message, or I said retainer, an invoice, whatever you need, we can send it. And we have a mobile app. The reason, and people would say to me, like, what do you need a mobile app for? You send messages. To me, if I'm a business person and a lawyer, and you send me, say, I'm practicing bankruptcy, And I get all these messages in my email and in my text messages for all these foreclosure clients. Every time that I want to go back and reference that specific message, I have to go through my text messages, like jumbled with like my mom texting me or my wife texting me. It's just not organizable. So what we did is we created an app where only the messages that we took go into, and like some sorting features, folders, tagging. It auto tags which line it came in on. It's very cool. The other great ramification of that is that all these tools that attorneys are now going to be able to use make their lives so much easier. I'm probably taking this way further than you thought, but I've been having conversations with like real legal tech experts, much smarter than me and do much more complicated things than me. I always like to say, like, on purpose, I'm the old-fashioned one. Like, I want human interaction between callers and law firms. But lawyers are able to work better than ever before with, like, what's the AI stuff called? Generative AI. So you can get briefs done. Say, like, it used to take you an hour to do a brief. It's going to take 2 minutes for you to do a brief because all you really got to do is review it on a platform like ChatGPT. So all of these things are going to start getting integrated together. Say you've got your CRM and it's your law firm practice management tool that it's integrated with. You've got documents that you're able to create, invoices you're able to send. And if the messages, like if my messages and my tagging features and all of that aren't able to get into that, I'm going to get left behind. So the practice of law it's going to be weird because I think that a lot of what used to take lawyers a lot of time, they're not going to be able to charge so much for anymore, which is a good thing. There's going to be so much access to justice, but it's going to get weird in a couple of years. I'm telling you right now.
I mean, it's already starting to, all these new tools that are rolling out. And I mean, yeah, I think for client retention specifically, like some of the no-brainers are like, I mean, there's a lot of AI-powered live chats now. There's a lot of AI-powered SMS, email, follow-up technologies. Like those need to exist. If you're serious about growing your practice, you can't have your intake team. You can't have your receptionists being the ones to manually do that follow-up on their own. You set up some rules, you put some criteria in place, and it's just off to the races. These technologies can do most of that heavy lifting for you. So no, I agree with all that. So this is kind of a curveball question, Nick. What if you were talking to a law firm and let's say they already have an answering service in place, what would be the 3 things that you would recommend to them to improve their intake system or their call center operation?
Ooh, what a great question. It would depend on the answering service, but I'll try and give the most like generalized statement that I can.
Let's say they're already working with answering legal, so you can't recommend them to, they're already working with you, but they're asking, hey, what can I do to improve my call center or my intake? What are the 3 things?
I like this. Okay, so internally, what you have to know is that when a receptionist gets a call, if you only have one phone number that you forward to us, they have to figure out and ascertain, obviously, what type of call it is coming in on your line. So say you could technically only do one type of law, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to call on it. What I would do on my end is set up a different like tagging feature for each type of law that you practice so that when I send you your messages, they're auto tagged and you already know what type of matter this is. And then you can sort by it, because I'm assuming in this day and age that you're advertising and you have at least some semblance of analytics, whether that be if you just look at all the messages that came in and with your eyeballs, you say, oh, all the green messages are criminal, all the red messages are personal injury. The one company over here handles my criminal advertising. The personal injury ones are all referrals. That referral is doing really well. Maybe I should pay that guy a visit and send him a thank you gift. That advertising company really sucks. Maybe I should call Pareto. That's number one. I'm doing good, right? The other thing is I would always take a look at how you're forwarding, and we encourage people to actually do this, is how you're forwarding your calls. So my easy bread and butter when I do sales is that we're going to just back you up on a support system. 3 to 4 rings, that's plenty of time for you to get the phone. Then it comes to us. We answer that call right away when it comes to us. So the person has heard 3 or 4 rings, say the transfer takes a couple seconds, we answer the call right away. However, once you've established that relationship with us, if you're like me, I like to optimize things. So what I would do is I would separate that entirely. I use the same example. I have an advertising company. I would get a separate number for that advertising company and send those calls straight to Answering Legal so that they can be answered even quicker, so that there's absolutely no chance that the call is ringing too long. And the third thing is I would constantly look at how I'm doing my intake and how I'm directing the service to do my intake. My personal recommendation, and this is not a one-size-fits-all for law firms, and I don't pretend to know what's going on inside your firm, is that you get 4 really targeted questions besides name, number, phone, email. For criminal, it's like, what's the charge, the date of the arrest, the county municipality, so that you know if you actually can do it. And the next court date, right? That's really all you need to know in order to start talking to somebody about their case. Yes, qualifying questions. You can go more in depth, but I would caution people not to do too many questions and really look at how you're doing your intake, because a lot of times, I get involved in so many email chains with bigger customers who want to send us this giant personal injury. What's your insurance company? What's this? What's that? People don't want to fill that out. They'll fill that out when it's a foregone conclusion and they've signed a piece of paper and they know they have to in order to get the result. But in order to just get you to do what they want, they don't want to fill all that stuff out. So I would really take a look at what you're directing, because at the end of the day, I'm going to do exactly what you tell me to do, within reason. And if those are your intake questions, sure, I'll ask all the intake questions. I'll fill them out to the best of my ability. But I would really take a look at the process that you have behind that.
Yeah, piggybacking off that, some of the sales training that I've gotten and things that I've read talks about getting to know as quickly as possible, right? And so if you apply that framework to an intake, context, it's like, what questions can you ask? What are the first 2 to 3 questions you can ask to immediately get to know? Another one that comes to mind is are you already working with an attorney? The answer is yes. It's you can't really help them, right? What was the date of the injury? If it was 2, 3, 5 years ago or beyond the statute of limitations, I can't help you, right? So to your point, Nick, get some of those qualifying questions out of the way, get to know quickly so that it's not wasting your intake team's time. They can focus on the folks that you can ultimately help. This has been awesome. I really appreciate you doing this, Nick. Before we jump here, can you tell us more about how our listeners can find out more about Answering Legal?
Sure. You can go to answeringlegal.com. No spaces, no dashes, no nonsense. You can send me an email. I'm happy to chat. I was just telling Bo that I give away my time a little too freely. I'm Nick, N-I-C-K, at answeringlegal.com. You can call us at 631-400-8000. Somebody's going to answer that phone call. It's going to be hilariously short that they answer the phone call, and then you're going to get through to one of us, and we're going to try and tell you all the benefits to using a service like ours. But before I give you back the microphone, Bo, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure working with you guys. It's a pleasure to be here, just chopping it up with you about the stuff that we do all day.
Thanks again, Nick. I really appreciate it. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to the Pareto Legal podcast. We will see you next week for another episode. Thanks, everyone.